PlayStation Productions' next movie project is Resident Evil. The Capcom horror series is reportedly being rebooted in Hollywood. So, I've seen a few articles talking about this, and honestly, at this point, I'm really just kind of over seeing Resident Evil on the big screen and them trying to do live action versions of it just because we've gotten so many iterations of it from the original franchise, from the films, from I can't remember the director's name at the top of my head, but the ones with the Mila Jovovich or whatever. I I kind of appreciate what they did with the first movie. It wasn't too bad necessarily. The second one was all right. They kept it a little bit close to, Resident Evil 3 with Nemesis and everything like that. But once they got into like the third and on, it just went off the rails at that point. It really jumped the shark in my opinion, and it was one of those things where like the third one I remember watching it and thinking like, "Oh, this isn't, too bad." I'm pretty sure that's the one where they're like in the desert and everything. But looking back, especially because of the at the time when that movie came out, I wasn't as big as a Resident Evil fan as I, later on became, because it was one of those things. I think I had played just like like one or two of the games at the time and not even beaten them, just like played them. But after, I gotten older and everything like that, I was able to actually go and play, the games from, from start to finish, more or less up to about 4 at the time. And seeing that the direction they went in with the movies wasn't something I was really happy with. So seeing that they're going to be doing another, shot at this when they've already done it twice, cuz they had the Resident Evil films with, like I stated, Mila Jovovich. They did the Netflix series, which was trash from what I've heard. I didn't even watch it. I didn't even bother. And then they also did another movie, which we'll get into in a second. So it's just interesting to hear that they're trying to go for it again. So I don't know, man. I'm really not with my hopes up on this one. So we'll go ahead and check out the article we got here, and then I'll give my thoughts. So, a rebooted Resident Evil movie is reportedly in the works, with major studios said to be currently bidding for a new film produced by PlayStation Productions. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the next movie, based on Capcom's popular video game series, well, that was not good writing right there, series, will be directed by Zach Krieger, the actor and writer who helmed 2022 horror film Barbarian. I've never watched Barbarian, and honestly, I've never heard of it, so I'm not too sure. If there's anybody out there that's seen it, is it an actual good horror film, or is it just, them claiming that it's actually good? So, Constantine Film, which has held the screen rights for Resident Evil since the 90s, will reportedly produce the reboot along with PlayStation Productions, a studio formed in 2019 by Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt its original game properties for film and television in partnership with Sony Pictures. And that doesn't have me in the slightest bit excited, because I've seen what they've Sony's been doing since 2019 as far as some of their game franchises and stuff like that. And there's not really much that I can really think of off the top of my head that has me like, okay, yeah, this has me hyped then. I'm like, I feel like video games still have that curse when it comes down to movies where they don't have anything good coming from them, and I don't understand why. I mean, I feel like the Super Mario movie was all right, but even that kind of went off on its own thing as opposed to actually going off of what the video game stories usually are. And some of the video games out there, they have stories that aren't necessarily too deep or anything like that. But I feel like with proper writing and good individuals that can be, the ones that decide the direction to go in, they can actually make something worthwhile and that is actually good. So I don't know, man. I just think it's really weird that they're trying so hard to kind of go in this direction, even though that more than likely it's not going to be really good. And the fact that they've already done 2 iterations as far as the films go, which is just sad. So Shay Hatton, who worked on John Wick Chapter 4 and Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, will co-write. It's claimed, and that's another thing that has me worried right there, because John Wick Chapter 4, I've never watched it, but I've heard it's more one of the kind of the lesser uh films as far as like the story goes. It's a little bit weaker in that regard. And then Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, personally, I thought that movie was fucking trash. I thought it sucked. It was one of those things. I was so excited to see it. I was so excited to see what direction it was going to go in. And I just remember watching it, and by the end of it, thinking like, this movie is stupid. It's stupid, and it fucking sucks. Which is sad because I feel like it had such potential to be something amazing, and it flopped hard. So, according to the publication, four studios are currently bidding for the movie rights, including Warner Bros. And Netflix. That's, again, another thing that has me worried because Warner Bros. Is fucking a trash ass company. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have so much money, yet they don't know how to, capitalize on it, which is sad. And then Netflix, I feel like there could be potential there with Netflix, but I feel like all they would do is probably come out with something really good, make the first film really like well and actually follow the storyline of the video games, and then they'd probably come out with a sequel and just go in their own stupid ass direction and then just make it flop. So either way, I'm not too satisfied with the direction it's going in so far as like, the information we're getting. So, six Resident Evil movies were released back in 2002 and 2016, starring Mila Jovovich, which were a mix of horror, sci fi, and action, with Jovovich's character fighting zombies and the evil Umbrella Corporation. The movies grossed over 1.2 billion worldwide. And that's the sad thing is that I feel like, 1.2 billion isn't no light feat. You know what I mean? I feel like that is a good amount of money, but I feel like if they were to actually stay truer to the video games and actually adapt them better, I feel like that number could probably be a lot higher, especially with six films. But, at the end of the day, it's the direction that they decided to go in. So Constantine has attempted to reboot Resident Evil several times since, obviously. A live action Resident Evil series was released on Netflix in 2022, a year before a live action movie, Welcome to Raccoon City. Capcom also released the CGI film Infinite Darkness in the same year. So the Netflix series I heard was trash. I heard it was so stupid and went into this weird direction. They made Wesker black, which was fucking random. It was so random and so stupid. And but I believe people were stating that it was still connected to the video games, even though that Wesker was black in it, which makes no sense in that regard. And then as far as the live action movie Welcome to Raccoon City, that was trash. I didn't even watch that one either because of the fact that they tried combining the first and second game into one movie as opposed to focusing the first movie being on the first game and then going into the direction of the second movie being for the second game being for the second movie. So hearing that they're the ones that are, that it's still the same company that's behind it, Constantine, it doesn't seem like this is gonna be a good thing. I'm really with little faith in this, and I don't mean to be so down and kind of shit on it so much, but I'm just going off of what they've given us. You know what I mean? They haven't really given us a reason to be excited for this and to expect something well, especially for someone like myself who is a big Resident Evil fan. I love Resident Evil so much. I love the franchise, and yeah, the video games, especially the first ones, they do kind of have that like B horror feel to them. But I feel like, again, with proper writers and a good direction that they could go in, they could turn this franchise into something amazing. But the studios that are behind it and that own the properties, it feels like they just do not know what they're doing, which is really sad. And then, meanwhile, the Resident Evil game series is enjoying a strong run. Capcom recently announced its Resident Evil 4 remake has now sold over 9 million copies since its release in March of 2023, making it by far the series' fastest selling entry. And that's the crazy thing that, I've stated it before. Some people might not agree with me. They might not like this take, but I wasn't a fan of Resident Evil 4 remake. I love Resident Evil 4 original from the bottom of my heart just because that was one of those games I grew up with. I played so many times. I swear I've beaten it more than 100, probably more than 200 times if I'm being honest. But as far as the remake goes, I wasn't a fan of it. And I wasn't sure if it was one of those things that like I just wasn't a fan because I played it once a couple times, and kind of got into it. No, I actually beat it like, a couple weeks back. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I just remember playing it. There are some fun moments in it, but overall, I'm just not a fan of the direction that they decided to go in. So seeing that kind of at the end of this article, I'm like, this still doesn't have my hopes up. I don't mean to be such a downer in that regard, but I'm not really keeping my hopes up when it comes down to this. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is there any fans out there of Resident Evil that think this is going in a good direction? Or like me, do you think this is probably going to end up flopping like the other attempts that they've tried to make with it? So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. If you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys have been watching this long, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.